But at this point, I think we should open it up to some questions. We've already answered this one, but I do want to read this out again. It was the first question we got. Will TransOhio have means to give grants for court costs, for birth certificates, and corrections like name change hearings? Yes, we do. TransOhio and Living with Change does have funds available. Please reach out. It's going to be on our website and also Living with Change's website. And we'll be answering those questions on Facebook too. Also, let's see. This one's for Kimberly. Can you please repeat the timeframes and form numbers for the name change, or the name status?
Sure. That August the 17th will be the date when the deadline, or it changes from 1 year requirement to be living in a state to a 2-month requirement. So starting August 17th, if you've lived in a county 3 months or 2.5 months, you can file in that county. Unlike before, you were waiting for a year to last until you could file. But now you can file right away as soon as that 2-month period is up.
Awesome. So that's August 17th. Is there any other change that's happening that day that's relevant? Ginger Marshall asked us this question.
There are some other changes in connection with the revisions. I do not have those in front of me that and I don't have a list of those right now. But if you look at the information for, I believe it's under the both Ohio Revised Code section 2717.01 and 2717.03. I think they've got an opportunity for you to do if those vary. And also the other issue that might help you is section 3704.15, which is registration of unrecorded birth. There are some other sections of like 2717.02, I believe, and 04 that also have made some slight changes definitionally, but I don't have that in my mind.
I'll jump in really quick. I'll say that I just put in the chat the access to the code section that Kimberly was referring to. So the 60-day requirement is a big one, but the other one that has our attention is they have added the term legal custodian for minors, which has us all kinds of excited. And so that means that moving forward, the kids that are living with relatives or kids that are not with their biological parents, there has been all kinds of problems with who is permitted to file that application. And by adding that small 3 different a legal custodian, I think that the court's intentions or the legislature's intention seems to be to open up who's able to advocate for a minor to get their name changed, which just to me feels spacious and wonderful. So August 17th, you don't have to live someplace for a year, and minor name changes seem to be more supportive, is what we are reading that as.
Awesome. We have a question here. How does one even go about getting a probate court order? That's a good question. It's going to depend on your probate court. Google that. Google your county probate court, and they will have some forms available. They'll have a phone number there too. Your probate court may not have a procedure set up for this yet. So this may involve a little bit of waiting. It may also involve calling and talking to the clerk to ask what you do. I know in some counties they don't have a form at all yet, but they're accepting motions. So people are going forward and writing their own motions. And if you want samples, please email me, james@transohio.org. I'm happy to work with you on this. Also, as I said, both clinics are able to help with this as well. Another question we had is, I don't live in the state anymore. How do I get a probate court order? Good question. You can get a probate court order in the state you live in right now, in the county you reside, and that may be easier depending on where you live. I know there are some states that you could just walk in and you can file a motion and walk right back out. But it depends on what state you live in. And I think you should use transequalitynow.org. It's NCTE's, the National Center for Transgender Equality's website. And they do have a document ID center. So it'll tell you exactly how to file for birth certificates in that state. So you can file in that state as well. Otherwise, you're going to have to come back to Ohio, and we'll have to maybe work through the clinics here or otherwise hire an outside attorney.
James, if it's okay, I'd like to grab one of the questions here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It says, do you still have to live in your county for a full year before a name and or gender change? It is no longer a year. Wait, how long is the wait period, and when does it go into effect? You have, yes, as I think Maya mentioned, there are different options. You may have 3 options for your gender marker change on your birth certificate, but your only option for name change is the county that you reside in, and that you currently reside and have resided in for a year, and after August 17th, the county that you've resided in for at least 2 months. So, but those are the requirements on that. Also, I think someone had mentioned about what if they don't have 3 options? What if it's just the county that they live in? And that you know, you're going to need to work things out and deal with it, and work with us or someone to try to determine what the policy is going to be for that particular county.
James, could I say something, Susan? So I think, you know, based on the questions that we're getting and based on the answers that we're providing, I really want to encourage people to take advantage of the legal clinics and reach out to lawyers. This is hard for lawyers. I mean, we're learning as we go. We have a lot of challenges. And what I'm personally concerned about, and I don't want to speak for other lawyers on the panel or those doing the work, is if we take cases and mess them up, right? At this point, if people do it individually or if we do it as lawyers, we could really mess up the law for a long time. We've got a good decision out of federal court, but we're just building the law literally straw by straw in Ohio. We've got a great platform here. We've got amazing attorneys willing to do the work. So please very seriously consider going to a lawyer, because every court is different. And you just get a court clerk on a bad day, and I'll tell you, they'll put you through hell. I can tell you from personal experience as a lawyer, you don't want to jump into that, you know, unarmed. And the best armor in this case is a good lawyer, and we have a number of them.
Thank you, Susan. That's a great point. And I think that also points to what Oliver was saying earlier is, you know, it's good to have a gender letter from your doctor, like the one you use to get your passport updated if you have that, or your social security updated if you have that. But don't turn that in with your petition to change your gender marker. Let's not give the courts reason to believe that this is the standard procedure, because it's not. That is not legally required. It's not a thing that we would encourage you, any of our organizations would not encourage you to submit that. It's good to have in your back pocket in case the judge asks for it, but you know, that's not legal requirements. So again, yeah, it's good to reach out to an outside attorney, or also either of these 2 legal clinics. This is what we do. Let's see. One question we had is, after changing your gender marker on your birth certificate, do you have to pay for a new birth certificate? So here's how it works with the Ohio Department of Health. To update the birth certificate, it's actually free to do. It's free to change your name. It's free to change your gender marker. But if you want a copy of that updated birth certificate in your hands to hold, yes, you have to pay for a new one. And I believe it's up from $21.50 to $25. So you will have to pay $25 to get a copy of your birth certificate. But if you don't need a physical copy, if it's just good in your heart to know that it's out there and the record's updated, it's actually free to do outside of the legal fees, so the court costs. See, we have a question here. Why are the probate courts even involved in cases like this update? Well, that's a good question. And it's because that was what the Ohio Department of Health decided. Sue, do you want to elaborate on that? Or is it just, this is where we are?
I'm being challenged by unmuting my machine, so you might not rely on me for a whole lot of advice. But no, it's a really important point, and I was going to raise it because I've seen several people ask it. Certainly, our preference was not to do this, but the problem is across the state, the system is for changing information on your birth certificate. Most of it requires a probate county approval. It's just another layer, and there's nothing per se unconstitutional about that. There's no way we could attack that per se. I will say, and this is again somewhat for the lawyers on this call, the language in the court's opinions about privacy and how important privacy is, especially, that people are in danger, physical danger, by being outed by non-conforming birth certificates, gives some room. And again, this is an argument attorneys would want to make, that probate courts requiring things like publication and that kind of thing are really unconstitutional. But those are fine arguments we have to make, but we are unfortunately stuck with the probate courts for now. One thing I didn't mention, and I think is really important, this was a trial court decision, a federal trial court decision. So it has precedence all over Ohio. That's great, but it wasn't appealed. And we're all still in shock why the state did not appeal it. They appeal everything, especially if it has to do with LGBTQ rights, forget it. So they're going to appeal it. If we end up relitigating parts of this case, if, for example, we challenge in federal court the probate court requirement, what would happen inevitably is the state would get another bite at the apple. And if they got a decision that helps us, we could end up going back up. They could appeal it. We'd end up in what's called the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is terrible, terrible, terrible for us, and end up with rulings that could wipe out everything we have right now. So again, I don't want to be alarmist about this, but I've worked in this for more than 10 years. And this decision is really good considering the current environment. But quite frankly, and excuse my language, it totally sucks on other levels. It's the best we can do right now, and we're continuing to build on it. And it's amazing, all of these lawyers who have volunteered and the organizations and the funds that are available. It's a great effort. It's not anywhere near where we want to be, but it's what we have for now. And I think we can accomplish a lot with it.
Somebody just asked, should I attend both clinics? If you've reached out to Equality Ohio and their legal clinic, I'm going to say no. Please don't also attend the TransOhio, Equitas Health, and OCTOPUS and Equality Ohio clinics. We are a network of mostly the same attorneys. We are all working together, all leaning on each other, and please don't take up two spaces. One question here, do we know what documents, if any, that some of the counties are requesting? We do, and we don't, because this is a changing policy. It's changing daily as the courts are catching up here. Like I said before, some of these courts are requiring just the application from ODH's website and some kind of ID, and that's it. Other courts are already asking for letters that prove as some kind of irreversible gender change surgery, which is not required by law. There's no really reason for that, especially in 2021, and especially the way the ODH's policy is worded now. But as I said before, these policies are changing. My most sincere hope is we will get to a point where all 88 counties are the same. But right now we are where we are, and we will know more when we know more. We have another good question here. If we get a birth certificate that does say X or non-binary, can I get the X on my ID or driver's license? That's a really good question. And this is something we're going to want to work through the Equality Ohio Legal Clinic for, because no, those are two separate procedures entirely. Federal documents, that's passport and social security, that's a separate policy than state documents, that's birth certificate and also the driver's license and state ID that has its own policy through the BMV. So that is that one form that you and either your doctor, and there's a number of other providers that can provide too, social workers and therapists as well. So the costs depend on each probate court. Yes, you heard that right. So you do have three options right now to choose from. And, I as an attorney, I don't want to encourage people to venue shop, but in this case, I kind of do. So what that means is if you live in a probate or in a county right now that's not accepting the new policies or are requiring documentation that is kind of unreasonable to you, it's okay to call around to the other counties where you can potentially file. So where your mother was pregnant with you, or where you were born, in addition to where you currently live. And if the cost is less, if the burden is less, please go file there. But don't let cost by itself preclude you from filing. There is financial assistance available, and that's true for name changes too. So please don't wait on this if you feel like you just aren't at a place financially. Don't let that be the reason. If you're in an emotional place where you're not quite ready to change your name or gender marker, please, you can wait for that. And there's no timeline on this. You can change your birth certificate before, after, or at the same time as filing for your name change. They're two totally separate procedures. All right, here's a good question. Is there a website that has the most recent policies from the various probate courts that have published them? No, we're working on that. Like I said, it's changing rapidly. Has there been any affirmed gender marker change on an Ohio birth certificate yet this year since the decision earlier? Yes, there has been, and in more than one county. Ohio Department of Health did announce that they would have the policy out by June 1st of this year. They actually did have the policy out before June 1st. So you could have filed before June 1st and it would have been recognized, but as it's after June 1st, anyone can file it right now in probate court. But as we said, some of the probate courts are dragging their feet. So again, it really just depends on where you are. But yes, there have been several people who've already changed their birth certificates, which personally, as an aside, is very funny to me, because 10 years ago, when we were in the back room of the Ohio Department of Health talking about what the new policies should be before the ACLU lawsuit, there was a pile of in-state birth certificates that we were talking about. As we went and we looked at it, and we were like, this is absurd. And it was a little pile like this big of birth certificates that just they weren't changing because they felt like they didn't have the authority to. They didn't want to do it. And I'm going to tell you that stack is much higher, and now they have to accept them. So it is just a little victory to me that ODH thought that there weren't that many trans people that would be taking advantage of this procedure, that it didn't make a difference at all, because there are people who aren't just living in Ohio, but people all over the nation and now in other countries who are going to be sending in their requests to ODH for their birth certificate updates. So I'm excited to see this change.
I'd like to just make a couple comments. If the one of the things, kind of drawing from some of the gist of the questions we're getting, if questions like about whether you need to have a therapist or whether you should be doing particular things regarding preparing for expectations that you may have regarding what the probate courts might or might not do, like we've said, we don't know for sure, and we don't know very many of the particulars of many of the 88 counties. So, but it is always a good idea, if that is something that you feel like would be helpful to you, to get a therapist, or to work with someone, or to work with a physician or doctor or licensed nurse practitioner who is giving you proper care as a member of the trans non-binary community. And so it's good to have all of these people and support in your back pocket, that if you do need them, they're going to be there for you, hopefully, and you can then utilize their services to try to help navigate the changes.
I want to jump in there too. I wanted to also say, so I'm seeing lots of questions around particular counties, and I would say we are not sold, at least I'm not sold on some of the definitive nature of a yes or a no in any county at this time. I'm still seeing wiggle room. And so I encourage you to I know it's frustrating, but stay wiggly with us for a minute, because they're still wiggling, and we're hoping that they just keep wiggling in a great direction. And so I would not get worked into a definitive yes or no either way right now with anyone. Just keep checking the probate websites, and we will be doing the same. And like, I think another couple of weeks are probably when these are going to start to be finalized. And in terms of like the evidence, I'm seeing also like the evidence questions, right? And so that's the same thing. Like, no, we don't have any definitive evidentiary requirements. We have what we want, which is self-attestation. That's our golden want. We want to be able to say that. The things that we talked about earlier, letters and DMV forms, those are required generally for other stages, right? So like if you want to change your gender marker on your ID, there's a form for that, right? And if you want to change your gender marker on your passport, there's a letter template for that, right? And so getting those things can at all hurt, right? You're going to need them at some point in time anyway. We just don't know, and no one has solidified what those requirements will be in county by county basis for the gender marker change. But if you have any clarifying questions around those items as well, please let us know, and we can definitely help point you in the right direction. And I'm seeing a really great question here too about time. How long is it going to take? James, do you want to jump in on that one?
It takes 4 to 6 weeks, allegedly, to get your birth certificate back from ODH once it is processed. We don't know exactly how long it takes because some counties are requiring a notice period, and it's as short as 7 days. So, you know, it could be very quick. It also could be the same day, depending on the county. You may walk out with your court order, but you know, it really depends on the county. But to get your birth certificate back from ODH, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks. And if you get your court order from an Ohio court, they send it on your behalf to ODH. So there's not going to be a delay. So don't worry about you not sending your court order directly to ODH. If you got your court order in Ohio, you're not going to delay because you didn't open the letter right away. It sends it for you. Does that make sense?
Someone had asked me, and this was, I believe, in the chat, about actually this person had gotten hold of me, and we had had a little bit of a discussion over the policy that was stated for Franklin County. And we do not know for sure exactly what the policy is going to be for Franklin County. I think what was stated in there will be revised and corrected, but it was somewhat confusing. So hold on, and we will let you know, or you know, we'll have information out there when Franklin County is able to get their policy. And I would think they're going to be one of the counties that's going to develop that.
Awesome, thank you. I do want to stress again that we have a Ohio-specific birth certificate legal advice clinic that's just for birth certificates, just for answering some of these questions and more county-specific questions. If we do have information for those counties on Saturday, June 26th, beginning at 12:00 p.m. and it ends around 2. All of our folks still do have to register for that, correct? Yes, folks still have to register, and you can do that on the Equitas Health website, and there also should be a Facebook event. If I can find it, I'll put it in the chat here. So that's just going to be for Ohio birth certificates, and even if you're living out of state and you're not in Ohio right now, if you have an Ohio issued birth certificate or your child has an Ohio issued birth certificate, you can still call in. Cool.
Another thing.
Oh, go ahead, Kimberly.
Another thing, and please, the rest of you correct me if you disagree, but I received a call from someone that I had worked at one of the legal clinics who had recently gotten their name changed. And so they approached their probate court on how they might go about making sure that their gender marker got changed as well. They received very excellent feedback and a positive reference to the way that they were planning on doing that, and sat down and talked to them about it. So if you do happen to find out a good information for your particular county, or information that you're getting from that county that has information that would help other people, please feel free to contact us and let us know that you're getting this from this county, because I think any bits of information, there's 88 counties out there, and if some of you are going through the process and are willing to give us some guidance as well and give us some information, that would be helpful. Thank you.
That's a great point, Kimberly. How we're getting a lot of our information isn't just talking to the probate courts directly. It is getting information from folks on the ground right now going through this process. So if you run into problems, please let us know. If it's easy breezy, also send us a happy face. I would love to hear that. We did have one question I wanted to address here. It's, so what's going on with the probate courts? Is it confusion or is it an unwillingness to adapt and to accept a new policy? And the answer depends on the probate court. I think it's both. I think probate courts don't know what to do, and they don't want to do the wrong thing. They don't. This is new for everyone right now, and in some of the more liberal counties, even those counties are not necessarily rubber stamping these petitions. So it can come down to politics, but I don't want folks to think that's all this is. I know it feels that way all the time. As a trans or non-binary person living in Ohio, your very identity is political, you know, and that is a shame. I don't want folks to feel that they are political pawns here, but that is kind of what's happening. And I feel like when more and more folks show up to claim their new birth certificates, these policies may change, and they may change for the better, because there is a belief out there that there just aren't that many trans people, and trans people aren't going to be taking advantage of this, and that's just not true. So is it confusion or is it ignorance? It's a little bit of both, but please don't take it personally if your probate court is confused. You may not necessarily have a judge who is anti-transgender just because there's not a good policy yet. It may really well be the judge is working on a good policy, and it really may be that they're waiting for further guidance. And that really is part of the problem with this, is there is no further guidance coming from ODH as far as we know, and there's no central guidance coming right now. So that's what's good about all of our organizations here on the panel, is we are advocacy organizations, and we are working to get all the courts on the same page so that everyone living in Ohio and everyone born in Ohio can take advantage of the same legal process that anyone else can take advantage of.
I have a question about questions.
Yes.
My audio's been in and out, so I don't know if this has been answered. If you live out of state, what is the process? Have we answered that already?
We did. You can apply in the probate court of the county that you live in out of state. And as I said before, in some states, that's actually easier than doing it in Ohio, but it depends. You know, I would reach out to the legal clinic and we can definitely help you.
And just to a follow-up to that, James, I don't know if we've talked this through, or maybe the clinicians have already thought about it, but you know, there are some states that won't allow it, won't do a probate court order change. As I think we saw some in the chat that people said that my state.
That's true. And one state specifically that doesn't do gender marker change is Tennessee. They're the only state still that is by statute. They don't do gender market changes, so you couldn't go there even if you were from Ohio or another state that allows gender marker changes now. So if you're in a state that doesn't have a policy for gender marker changes or doesn't allow for gender marker changes, please reach out to one of the legal clinics here, or if you'd rather, reach out to a personal attorney and get some advice on how to move forward there. Awesome. One person asked, is there a list of trans family attorneys I can utilize if they do or don't meet the poverty level? Yes, we can help. Equality Ohio does have a attorney referral network. They can help you find an attorney. TransOhio can also help you find an attorney. And also, I don't think we talk enough about the different county bar associations. A lot of the county bar associations have LGBT friendly attorneys who are on the pro bono or discount referral list. So please reach out to your legal aid or your bar association to see if they do have a list of attorneys you could use. And if you are too scared to do that, you can reach out to TransOhio and we can help.
Someone mentioned also that wondering about accessibility for the PowerPoint. This video should be available several places, I think, on Facebook and probably YouTube and
right. It's going to live on YouTube,
information.
Facebook,
so
and I think
you
the
can
various
kind of,
websites.
fast forward up to that point and look at that.
Perfect. Awesome. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope we clarified things. I know it hurts sometimes to hear the changes here, please wait. But that's where we are. And the changes here, we're very excited that we do have a policy now that the state has to follow. And we are guaranteed, changes for transgender, non-binary folks. But what that policy looks like varies county to county. So it's unfolding, and stay with us as we're learning too. Does anyone on the panel have any last words? You want to plug anything we're doing?
Just want to thank everybody for attending. And I do appreciate your patience. I know a lot of people out there have been waiting 20 years or more for this day, and it's an exciting time, but it's so uncertain. So I cannot imagine your frustration. So thank you for your patience.
And happy Pride Month.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Hope you learned something from this, and hopefully you've got enough information now that you can proceed, and but feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Be safe and healthy.
Thanks all.
And thanks, folks. Again, that's Saturday, June 26th, 12 to 2 o'clock p.m. We will have an Ohio birth certificate specific legal advice clinic. So please bring us all your specific questions. We can help you more at that time.